Let's spend a few minutes talking about the materials I'm going to use, as well as some of the strategies I'll be using in order to suppress noise, make my sound booth as quiet as possible. I'm going to use three main strategies. The use of insulation, the use of some specialty acoustic products, and finally decoupling or isolation. And let's talk about those three as I tell you about the materials I'm going to use to make the building. The four walls and the ceiling are going to be constructed out of 2x4s. Standard 2x4 construction with studs at 16 inches on center construction. And then between all of those studs I'm going to place R13 insulation. And I've decided to use the pink fiberglass insulation. I spent some time thinking about using the kind of cotton base or textile base or the recycled denim insulation, but those products cost 2 to 3 times more expensive than the pink fiberglass insulation. And the more I read about it, the less I was convinced I would get as much bang for the buck. So I decided, mostly on budget reasons, to stick with the standard pink fiberglass insulation. The first acoustic special product I'm going to use is this product here. This is called Db3 Acoustic Barrier. It is a very thick vinyl product, and it's somewhere between probably about an eighth to 3/8 of an inch thick. And I'm going to be using this material to wrap the entire structure, and this has tremendous sound damping properties. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to take a 1/2 inch piece of drywall, and then I'm going to take this vinyl barrier and I'm going to tack it to the studs. So I'll have the drywall, then I'll have the vinyl barrier connected to the studs with the insulation. Then on the inside I'm going to have one more piece of 1/2 inch drywall. The last part of the wall, on the furthest side, I'm going to have one more piece of 1/2 inch drywall, but I'm going to use my second special acoustic product, which is called Quiet Glue Pro. And this is a special noise damping adhesive. So I'm going to use about 2 of these tubes per 4x8 sheet of drywall. I'm going to put it on the back of that interior piece of drywall and then stick it onto the other piece of drywall and then use drywall screws to connect it to the studs. And this will have tremendous sound damping possibilities. In fact, if you're looking to soundproof a room, a very quick way you can do it is just take some drywall and use this quick glue on the back of it and then attach it to your existing walls. And that will have a very dramatic sound damping effect. There is another product out there called green glue, and I decided for Quiet Glue Pro over the green glue, again largely for cost reasons. This product is about 30 to 40% less expensive than the green glue, and from what I've been reading, it's pretty much a comparable product. We'll find out. So at that point, there is the 5-inch wall. It consists of 1/2 inch of drywall, and then the vinyl acoustic barrier, the wood structure with the insulation, and then 2 layers of 1/2 inch drywall with the Quiet Glue Pro in between the last 2. That'll be about a 5-inch wall, and that's going to be the construction of all 4 walls as well as the ceiling. Now the floor is also going to be very robust. Instead of about 5 inches, it's going to be about 8 inches tall or thick. And instead of 2x4s, I'm going to be using 2x6 for more rigidity, more strength. Again, 16-inch on-center construction, and then between all of the studs, instead of an R13, I'm going to have, I think it's R19, which is a 5.5 inch thick fiber insulation that I'm going to use. And then instead of sheetrock, what I'm going to use is some layers of plywood. So on top of the insulated stud structure, the floor joists, I'm going to put a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and then on top of that I'm going to put about a 1/2 inch thick foam insulated pad, and then on top of that I'm going to put a 1/2 inch piece of plywood. And so all of those layers together, again using plenty well, I guess I didn't mention, the other product I'm going to use is Green Glue Acoustic Sealant. And so anytime walls or joints come together in my structure, so as I'm connecting the walls to the floor, I'm going to be using a lot of this acoustic sealant. I'm also going to use this sealant in order on all the seams of my drywall. So instead of using mud and tape, you know, kind of typical drywall sheetrock construction methods, I instead am going to be using this acoustic sealant between and on top of all of the seams, and then use an aluminum tape to seal it up. So this is a very key part of the structure, is this acoustical sealant. So that's the general structure: 5-inch walls, about 8-inch floor. Plenty use of these products: Quiet Glue Pro, the acoustic vinyl barrier, as well as the acoustic sealant. The very last product I'm going to be using, and at this point we've talked about insulation and specialty products, the last thing we need to talk about is decoupling. And a very important part of my strategy is going to be making sure that my isolation booth is not connected to any of the surrounding structures. So you'll see when I go into the home office, when I build this, the isolation booth will not be touching any of the walls, nor will it be touching the ceiling. In fact, there'll be a good inch or 2 inches to a foot and a half on top of space. And the reason for that is I don't want any vibration communicated from those walls to my isolation booth. But what about the floor? So I'm going to have these 2x6 floor joists, and I don't want them to rest directly upon the cement foundation. So what I'm going to use is my final specialty product. This is made by a company called Auralex, and these are called Auralex U-Boat Floor Spacers, or Floor Floaters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use about 60 of these. This is made out of rubber. It has about a half-inch thickness on the bottom, and the floor joists are going to rest right in this area here. And so instead of having the wood rest directly onto the cement foundation, it's going to be this material is going to be sandwiched between the joist and the floor, and that's going to give me what's called decoupling, or isolation, a separation between the physical structure of the sound booth and the actual foundation of the building. So those are my materials that I'm going to choose. That's also the strategies of isolation for, or insulation I should say, the 4 specialty products, and decoupling and isolation. In the rest of the videos I'm going to be showing you how I build the floor, back wall, side walls, front wall, ceiling, and eventually we'll talk about the door. I'm going to have a door with a window in it, double pane glass. And of course the door is going to take some very special thinking, because that is typically the weakest part of the structure in terms of sound damping. Again, I'm looking forward to showing you in the upcoming videos how I go about putting all these materials together.